You are listening to Heroes Never Die, your one-stop spot for all the latest news, Overwatch League results, and mishaps in Overwatch. Here are your hosts, Totemly Drunk and Edinar.
What is up, guys, and welcome back to Heroes Never Die, your one-stop spot for all things Overwatch. I am your host, Totemly Drunk, and tonight on episode number 145, we'll be discussing the latest in Overwatch esports, see what's buzzing in this week's hot community topics, and we'll cap off our Overwatch League Season 2 power rankings with our top 5 teams. But before we can do that and introduce you to my co-host, I just want to take a moment to thank everyone who is hanging out with us tonight on Twitch for our live show, and of course thank all of our repeat listeners out there. So, joining me tonight, as always, is my co-host Edinar, and Ed, right now I feel as if you and I are both in Eco Point, Antarctica. I just hope in our case that we aren't the sole survivors, because, we saw what happened to the scientists there.
Yeah, no, we are in the Midwest, as you've heard us talk about, so it is quite cold. Up here, I think when I went to start my car today, it was negative 27 with a wind chill of negative 54. And my car somehow started, unlike a certain somebody else that hosts the show. But to put that into perspective, Madison, Wisconsin was presently colder than Antarctica and Mars. So Mars was warmer than us today. But it's nice and chilly, but good time to stay indoors, play some video games, which I did earlier. Tested out the new map, which we'll talk about next week, once we can actually break it down. But, it's been a good week. It's been fun outside of the weather. Recorded our fantasy podcast yesterday, so that was a lot of fun. How about you? How's your week been?
It's been pretty busy. So obviously Sunday was a pretty big night. I interviewed the Birdwatchers for Overwatch Recall. Talked a little bit about Atlanta Reign, Atlanta Academy. They were trying to convert me to being a Reign fan. I was like, no, the buck stops at Sugar Free and the Academy team. And then, it was Royal Rumble, so, that was a good time, because we usually watch all the wrestling pay-per-views as a family. And then Monday, unfortunately, Slambo is still in the audio biz, having some mic issues. Probably needs to get a new soundboard, so he's kind of MIA until that's situated. And Spider was out sick, so that was the thing that happened. So it's like, oh well, I don't want to cancel. Like I don't like doing that. The only time we did that was technically when we did a holiday special. And I don't want to go stir crazy, so I thought I would just do like a quick, 30-minute overview of what's been going on in Overwatch League, and I reflected back on the next winter finals, which featured Runaway 2.0.
Runaways.
I'm never gonna do that.
I'm gonna catch you one time.
One time. You're gonna be waiting a long time. It's gonna feel like the Shanghai Dragons inaugural season. It's gonna be that long of a stretch.
But who knows? They may just run away. I don't know. I don't know where I was going with that joke. I tried thinking of something on the fly, and I failed miserably.
Well, I'm sure we'll be hearing about that somewhere in the YouTube comments, but let's go ahead and jump into this week's news. And let's first start off by talking about Overwatch and its price of being permanently cut in half on Battle.net for all editions of the game. So the standard edition is now $19.99, with the legendary edition, which is the one that includes all the bonus skins and rewards, that one now costs $40. Now, what is this going to mean for all of you PS4 and Xbox One players? Well, you have to pay full price still. You buy the game once, and you keep creating, Battle.net accounts on console. It's not that big of a deal, but it's still full price, and they're just not able to match that digital offer that you can't get on PC. Now, this price drop does coincide with the Lunar New Year event, which is going on right now, Year of the Beard. No one is going to call it anything else, let's be honest here. So, Ed, I know, you've already been playing a little bit more than I have this past week since this happened, so what has this really meant about the state of the game with where you're at right now?
Well, so I've been playing a little bit more on my Smurf account. I'm at 19 right now, and I honestly haven't noticed it. Like I've noticed a normal amount of Smurfs that I'm used to seeing. But this is fairly new, and we just had a sale on this. So I mean, you're gonna get the normal. You're probably gonna see an influx of actual new players because anyone who wanted a Smurf account or thought about it got one 2.5 weeks ago when it was half off. 3 weeks ago when it was half off. So they're not gonna go out and buy another one 3 weeks later. So yeah, it's I'm not seeing an influx. Actually, the queue times are kind of insane. At least for me, for like arcade, like I'm waiting 2.5 minutes for 2.5 3 minutes just to get to an arcade match, like
Oh, man.
Mystery Heroes. I'm like, this is weird. Even quick play is taking a while for me. So, and that just may be where I'm at.
I
Like
mean,
in SR,
we
but
we know it can't be from people playing Capture the Flag.
no, because I still they can entice me with a loot box all they want. I'm still not going into capture the flag because it's horrible. But yeah, I'm not really seeing much this week. I mean, I don't know. I don't. It, it's nice that they reduced the cost. I think it had to happen because the game is, a couple of years old now. They should probably reduce it from full price at some point. So yeah, no more half off after free weekends, unless they go half off of this cost now and be like $9.99, and then which they could technically do and wouldn't probably hurt them. But yeah, I don't know. I haven't noticed anything.
Well, I know a few people out there are starting to feel like the sky is starting to fall now, where, there's been some murmurs that people are expecting Overwatch to go free to play.
What would make people think that? Like, no, this game will not go free to play. Plain and simple. Like, I'm not saying it never will. Not anytime soon will it. I mean, name another game like this that is free to play, that has been around this long. Like, there's just not one. Like, you're looking at other esports and you can think League of Legends and stuff like that, but
Right.
they have a system in place in game to generate money. They started off free to play. You have to buy heroes, you have to buy all the skins and stuff like that. Overwatch is not going to make all its money just on loot boxes. Like, it's past that point. Loot boxes are not a thing. So yeah, no, they're going to rely on this and then the Overwatch League to fund this. So yeah, it's not going free to play. And if it goes free to play, then imagine an overhaul to the loot box system, where loot boxes are gone, and you're going to have to purchase individual skins for money. Like, if you want that new skin, you're going to have to shell out cash for it. And that's how they're going to make money. So I don't want this game to be free to play. And I don't think the player base wants it to be free to play.
I feel like a lot of the talk is just due to the fact that they want the game to be more accessible, in the sense that they feel like that's going to help the growth of the esports side of the game as well. Because I mean, you can compare, like, we see what's going on with Fortnite. Obviously, it's still leading a majority of the Twitch streams right now. Now, granted, Fortnite esports is still dealing with a lot of woes when it comes to balance patches. Springing up, last minute, patches on live servers, and then you're playing the day of.
Is trash. It is. Fortnite esports is trash tier. It's worse than Heroes of the Storm. I will say that.
The problem is just Battle Royale doesn't necessarily equate to a good viewing experience. I feel like it is, but I'm not gonna rule out the possibility of it ever going free to play, but I feel like if it is gonna happen, we are nowhere even near that part of the life cycle of Overwatch where that's going to happen, because they basically already said, look, we're going to drop new heroes, we're going to drop new maps, it's going to be free of cost, you're not going to have to pay for new content that's coming out in Overwatch, and if the game goes free to play, then, they're going to need some way to make money, and loot boxes right now is not the answer.
No, and if you remember, I can talk. If you remember Warcraft, people have been saying for 7-8 years that they're getting rid of the monthly fee, and they're going to go free to play just outside of buying the expansion. Like, they're not going to have the monthly fee or anything like that. And Blizzard's like, no, we're going to stick with this. It works. This works for Overwatch. If they go free to play, a lot of things are going to be changing, because they did promise us that they will never, ever charge us for new heroes or maps. So where are they going to do it? It's going to be on everything else. They're going to start nickel and diming us on skins and emotes and stuff like that. And that's where they'll make their money. And then people will get real pissed, like they do at EA for literally every game they play. So I think it would be bad for the game if it went free to play.
Yeah, it's like spend $5 to earn another emote part of the pinwheel,
Yeah, like how many people are actually paying real cash for Overwatch League skins?
Well,
not many.
Right now, probably not that many.
Yeah, but like even in the season, people are just kind of earning them from watching them on Twitch. And that's how people are getting them. They're not selling a crap load of Overwatch League skins for real cash. Now imagine that new Reaper skin that just came out was $5. So yeah, people would be up in arms if this game went free to play.
Yeah, and I'd always be curious to see, with an influx of casual players entering the game, what exactly that would mean for the state of balance moving forward too, because that's another scary thing to think about. But let's not talk about hypotheticals. Let's talk about things that are definitely happening, and we do know that High Noon Fantasy is launching their Fantasy Overwatch on Monday, February 4th. So last year we saw High Noon focus on running pick'em leagues, and we were one of the featured leagues there, and they are expanding to cover Fantasy Overwatch League. And if you've been listening to our Fantasy Overwatch League podcast, OWL by the Numbers, you probably already know this because we've pretty much partnered with them yet again. So for those that aren't aware, this is, one of 2 websites that are actually doing Fantasy Overwatch League this season. And High Noon Fantasy is going to feature standard leagues, which is more, traditional. You have a draft, you pick, 9 players, 10 players, whatever it is, and you just go from there. And then there's also unlimited leagues. So with unlimited leagues, basically that's a different rule set where you can have any number of members in the league. So you can have everyone in our Discord if we choose to have that happen. I don't know if everyone would sign up, but who knows? We might have another 200 player league, kind of like we did for the Pick'ems last season. But basically, it's without a draft. So each week you can basically pick whatever player you want to fill certain slots on your team, and you just go from there. And it's all, based on points and how your players are performing. And it's very important to note that next Tuesday night, we're actually going to have High Noon Fantasy Soul Drink, or Matt, as he's also known by. He'll be guesting on OWL by the Numbers Tuesday night. So if you guys have any sort of Fantasy Overwatch League questions about their system, and maybe how it compares to, what Winston's Lab is doing, or, where they're getting their stats, anything like that, Tuesday is the night to ask, because he will be answering all of your questions. So we hope to see you there. Now, with that being said, we do have our Podcasters Fantasy Showdown Draft, and that will be taking place next Friday night. That will feature OWL by the Numbers, Foul Play, the Bird Watchers, Broverwatch on the flank, OWL Recap, and Overtake. So we'll probably be streaming that. To what extent, we're still trying to figure that out. But I'm sure we'll all be in Discord voice chat. Be tons of trash talk going on. Probably some spicy memes. It'll be a good time. But I hope everyone is interested, or at least wanting to check out Fantasy Overwatch League and see what exactly that entails, because, it might get you more invested in some other teams that you might otherwise have kind of, turned a blind eye towards?
Well, for starters, most of the trash talk is going to come from me. Like, we'll just throw that out there right now. But yeah, no, I'm obviously very excited for Fantasy Overwatch League. We've been talking about it for months now. We have the other podcast for it. Definitely tune in next Tuesday to hear Matt talk about it, answer any of our questions. Our draft will be on the 8th, right before the league starts. It's gonna be fun. I'm gonna win. I'm gonna dominate. I have like 7 side bets already on this league. So yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun, and it's I will say this for those of you out there who have played Fantasy Overwatch last year with Winston's Lab, it is much better on highnoon.gg than it was on Winston's Lab last year. So definitely come check it out, see what all the shenanigans are about, join our league to do the pick'ems, all that fun stuff.
Yeah, and it is worth noting we will have pick'ems running as well as in Unlimited League through highnoon.gg, so stay tuned for more details once that service actually launches. And, we'll try to figure out what exactly we want to do in regards to that, but definitely a good way to see how you stack up against our entire Overwatch podcast network. And of course, there's going to be plenty of trash talk between the hosts. I can't not just completely dominate in regards to OWL Network like I did last season in Pick'ems compared to Slampo and Spider. I'm expecting the same.
I came in stage 4,
mm-hmm.
and I took 3rd. So I feel like, Spider forever 3rd was forever 4th in the last stage 4. So I'm just throwing that out there. Spider couldn't even beat me.
This is true. All right. Well, it's been a pretty quiet week in regards to hot community topics. I know there's some stuff that dropped today, and we haven't quite had enough time to kind of digest the information at hand when it comes to the new PTR patch, as well as the new Omnic meta analysis that is focusing on this current patch with the Reaper buffs. We'll be doing more of a deep dive on that on next week's episode. But tonight, let's talk a little bit about Vancouver Titans. So there's been a lot of talk on a competitive Overwatch Reddit about the fact that Vancouver Titans are still in Korea. As of right now, we are 15 days out from the start of Overwatch League Season 2, and while some players are dealing with visa issues, the Titans, as an entire team, are still in Korea. Now, we do know that Cox, who is a former Runaway player, mentioned that the team isn't expected to arrive in Los Angeles until a couple of days before their first match of Season 2. And the original Runaway roster, the roster that does make up the Titans, we do know that they went over to Vancouver for the brand reveal, which they did at the Canucks game. Then we learned about the whole Malkari situations, with the stolen social media handle, all of that good stuff. And they immediately flew back to Korea after that, and they've been in Korea ever since. Now, there's something to be said about the kind of like the transition when you go to relocate, because obviously it takes a little bit of time to get your feet underneath you in a new country, new digs, all of that good stuff. Do your photo shoots or whatever ahead of time, work out. If you're going to have any sort of shenanigans for your walkout, all of that good stuff. Do you feel like arriving that close to the season is going to be a detriment to Vancouver Titans early on?
Yes. It 100% will. Because not only do we not know when they're going to be coming over, because we don't know. Like you said, there's visa issues, there's, stuff like that. It could be, if you remember the Fusion before last season, they had, same kind of issues going on. Like, I don't know. They're not going to be able to get over here, get acclimated, get their sleep schedules going, get settled in. They're scrimming other Korean teams. They're not scrimming other pro teams.
Not necessarily. I'll get into that in a minute.
They could be scrimming other pro teams, but they're scrimming other pro teams from Korea while the other pro teams are in LA, like OWL teams, because they're the only team not in LA right now, as far as I'm aware. Is there any other ones that aren't in LA?
If we're talking wholesale, I'm pretty sure they're the only ones that aren't there. That being said,
so,
there are teams that are missing pieces, but not like an entire roster worth.
Yeah, like so they're scrimming against OWL teams maybe, but they're not scrimming against them properly. Because I mean, there's no way that there's a great connection between Korea and LA, as far as latency, stuff like that. So I don't know. It will take them more than 2 weeks to get acclimated, situated, all set up, get their house, get settled in, get all the computers set up, start training, do all that stuff. It's just they're gonna be behind. So that is why the Finger Bangs are a better team. Yes.
With that being said, it is worth noting that the other expansion teams, at least the Chinese teams, before they went to LA, they were actually in Korea doing boot camps. That includes Hangzhou Spark and the Guangzhou Charge. So there's a very good chance that the Titans were scrimming both of those teams. And who knows, maybe they were doing some in-house stuff with Runaway 1.0 going up against Runaway 2.0.
Runaway versus the Runaways?
No.
Yes.
I'm not gonna fall into this.
Yes, you are.
No, it's not happening. But for the most part, there seems to be like a lot of misconceptions. A lot of people are out like on a Reddit post saying, "Oh, they haven't been scrimming anyone." Like, so they're just completely SOL as soon as they travel to the Overwatch League, and a lot of people are just blowing things out of proportion. Do I feel like it's gonna negatively impact them early on? I think that's a safe bet. Because for one, yes, having that that family mentality as a team is very important. So maybe that might make the transition period, a little bit less of a burden. But you're still having to deal with all the travel. There's a lot of stuff that goes into getting everyone into the team house, getting everyone situated, unpacked, getting LAN ready. So we'll see just how much jet lag or lack of practice there is once we get into Season 2. But I'm not going to say that the sky is falling for Vancouver Titans already, but I guarantee you, if Vancouver just comes out of the gate really slow, everyone's just going to point back to this and be like, oh, well, that's the reason.
You know where they're not running away to? LA.
At least not right now.
Yeah.
Technically, they wouldn't be running away, they'd be flying away.
Well, they're not doing either. So
yeah,
maybe they're running away from the airport.
Or they're just staying in the coop.
Yes. They're just like, we're so good, we're just going to stay in Korea. We're that good. And we can just play you on that latency and we'll still win.
We'll just play with 300 MS and we'll just go from there.
Yeah, maybe they're just fighting the system and they're going to be like, no. We're going to be playing from Vancouver. We're just going to play from home out the gate. And we're going to Canada. Probably in a better situation than we are right now. So you know what? They're going to go to Canada, play us from there, and then it all will be, settled.
I like it. All right, well, let's go ahead. Let's talk about the expansion teams as we go inside the Path to Pro and the Overwatch League. So we got actually quite a bit of expansion team news. First up, over the past week, we've been seeing more and more jersey designs, and that includes all 8 of the expansion teams. So we still don't have any sort of word on when this stuff is going to be available, but looking back, when preseason for Season 1 started, that is when the gear showed up on the Overwatch League website, on the gear store. So we're expecting something similar, but, there technically is no preseason. There's that community countdown or whatever the heck they were calling it. So if we are going to get them ahead of this, the season premiere, it will be during that period, but chances are it'll be that week before Season 2 starts, and not any earlier than that. Now, that being said, these new jerseys do have some slight variations in regards to the designs compared to last season. We still have the team logo in the front. We see like a small trim with the player name on the right breast with the number on the right sleeve. And, you know, the funniest thing that I saw out of all of the jersey unveilings was the fact that, you know, there's a certain player who is dealing with visa issues from Chengdu, and his name is one letter too long for the jerseys. So that's a feels bad man moment.
I mean, you see, and that's the thing is you have that in every sport. I mean, the number of NFL whose names don't fit on the back of jerseys, and then they still have to have the names on them. So like they're going down the right arm. I'm like, well, okay, that's just awkward looking. But, you know, I like the new jerseys because they are definitely different than, you know, the ones last year. Even the teams, I think it was the Valiant, were showing off, like, the new jerseys for the Valiant.
Yeah, Fusion were different, too.
Yeah, it's Fusion. We don't care about that. At least I don't. Most overrated team, 2019. But yeah, it's, you know, I like them. There's outside of the finger bangs being the best jersey out of the new ones. There were some pretty good ones. I will say the Vancouver Titans was a pretty good one. I did like the Atlanta Reigns. Mm-hmm. Toronto Defiance was that one's not good. And I don't like the Hunters one either. The Paris Cox was pretty good. The Gatorades were pretty good. Like, I'm not even calling them by their real name because that's Gatorade. That's a Gatorade logo for, you know. And then you have the Washington Capitals. That's just, no. Until you put 3 stars on there, you're just, no. You're on the D League there, Washington. So, yeah, no, I can't wait for these because I'm going to be ordering my Gushue jersey the day it's available.
You know, I
or Crystal. I can't decide.
You're undecided. Well, you know what's funny is I was actually going to ask you if there's been any player jerseys that you're eyeing to get it, and you technically already answered that. Except you know, you're in that dilemma, just like our good buddy Julian Goulian is in regards to his name.
Yeah, it's Julian Goulian. You know, that's your name. Deal with it. But no, but yeah, no, I'm definitely going to get some of that. Finger bang jersey, and then I'll probably get one of their shirts, and I'll get one of their glasses to drink while I podcast so I can show off my pride, and it will be good. I'm excited for it. I'm excited for the new fan favorite team of Overwatch to be an actual good team, because I think the Spark, are going to take over from the Fuel and from Shanghai and be like the big fan favorites for the entire league.
Well, if the skins are any indicator, I 100% agree with you on that, because the pink skins are literally everywhere.
Wait, you mean literally?
Yeah,
everywhere?
Literally.
Okay. I actually do not have, because I have no tokens saved up, but I've contemplated buying some.
See, but you haven't pulled the trigger yet.
I have not yet.
We're so close to the season. You're holding off.
You are so close to the season, but it's a matter of so if I want to go with Crystal, as my go-to, finger bang player, then it will be on my DPS account that I get it. Mm-hmm. And then earn because on my main account, my Edinar account, that is the one I have tied to Twitch. So that's the one I'm going to earn tokens over time, and then I'll buy them on there. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to buy at least 1 to 2, finger bang skins on my DPS account, and then earn the rest on my main account. So how about you? Do you have any jerseys that you want?
So I'm looking at a couple. Gushue is definitely on my list for Hanzhou Spark. I'm a little bit conflicted with the Titans one, just because I don't have like a clear favorite player on that initial runaway roster, and a lot of them do such a good job at their role. Like they don't really have like that standout star player, so like I'm very conflicted there. So that one I'm gonna have to be sitting on. The other one I would probably be eyeing is Kodak.
You've always been a Kodak. I mean, we both kind of have, but you have always been a Kodak person. You are the Kodak moment.
Yoga.
Yes.
But other than that, maybe I'll do something similar where maybe initially I just start with like the base jersey before I do player jerseys. That way I could just add to my collection and then not feel conflicted on who I need to, rep in regards to the actual player.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Like, I want to like go all in on the because right now they're my favorite team in Overwatch League, and not because of their color combination or that. It's because I love Gushue, Crystal, IDK. Love what they did in the offseason. We'll talk about it in a little bit. I think they were the best expansion team to come out. But I'm conflicted because more than likely there will be a team in Chicago next year. And if there's a team in Chicago next year, screw the rest of the team. I'm sorry. It's just, and I will buy jerseys, I will buy skins, I will buy whatever I can to support the Chicago team. If it's actually in Chicago, it might be in Milwaukee. I don't know. But whatever team the Midwest gets next year, I will be 100% all in on it. So I'm conflicted. So I'm still going to get a jersey, but I don't know if I'm going to go full bore in.
Gotcha. Well, in other expansion team news, we do have a couple of updates in regards to Contenders 2019 Season 1. We do know that 3 additional expansion teams are looking to field an Academy team in the upcoming season of Contenders, and the teams in question are Paris Eternal, Guangzhou Charge, and Chengdu Hunters. Now, Eternal revealed this during a recent Reddit AMA, that the franchise is working to form an Academy team to compete in Contenders Europe. Now, we don't know anything about the roster or the branding, but details are expected to be unveiled here in the coming weeks ahead, and that Academy team will be the second Academy team in Europe, the other being London Spitfires Academy team of British Hurricane. Now, moving over to Chengdu Hunters, we know that they have partnered with one of the Chinese Contenders team, and they have partnered with Lingan Esports, and this team will be called LGE Hua moving forward. Now, Hua is basically like a live streaming platform. They have invested in Chengdu, so I'm going to have to get used to saying that word, which is it's a really weird word to say. But Lingan Esports is a team in Contenders China that's kind of always been there. Like, They've competed, they just haven't fared well. Like, they've never made it out of the quarterfinals of any playoff, but they at least made it to the playoffs throughout the entirety of the year. So, I mean, I guess that's something, but they also didn't go anywhere. So, they're kind of middle of the pack team in regards to Contenders China. Now, we don't know which of the roster members are going to be retained to make that transition, if any. They might always start fresh, you never know. But, they are going to have a guaranteed spot in the next season of Contenders, as will all of the Academy teams. And we do know that, we talked about Guangzhou Charge in the past. I think it was like last week or the week prior. But there is some other news in regards to a team getting picked up by an unknown Academy team, which I feel like is worth mentioning, because this might be the team that's going to be the Charge Academy team, and that is the Contenders Pacific Season 3 champions. Hong Kong Attitude announced that they have transferred the entirety of their roster to an Overwatch League Academy team. Now, Hong Kong Attitude is a team that's been competing at the highest level of competition in the Pacific region since 2017, and they've fared pretty well in the Pacific. I know in Season 2 they kind of stumbled, but they just came off of a championship win, And to see an entire team go in wholesale, not having to get bought out is fantastic. So I'm glad that that organization didn't have to split up the players despite whatever offers were on the table. So they're sticking together. So who knows, that could be the Charge Academy team moving forward. And if so, they got a pretty good team and an exciting team to watch. You're muted, by the way.
Dang it, I knew I was going to do that one. No, these are contenders team because it's not going into the big ones. It's not another team into NA contenders. It's not another team into South Korea contenders. This will be another one into EU, which is basically the British Hurricane and nothing. Like they have their pick of the litter. Like if I was a betting man, I actually Paris picking up Team Gigante is what a lot of people are going to say, but I don't think they're going to. I think they're going to go Angry Titans. And they could also just do a mishmash of players. It could be that, but I think they'll pick up a whole team. And Angry Titans is one of those teams that's kind of always been around and for at least contenders in EU.
Well, to that point, though, we've seen how many players from Team Gigante have been picked up by Overwatch League teams. Why would that sway them away from signing Gigante as their academy team?
I don't know. It's just... I feel with Gigante being made up of old ex-Overwatch League players, it's just, I think they want something fresh and new. They don't want the players that were on the failed Mayhem team. Which is basically, I mean, it's not all that Team Gigante was, but it was the key players. I just personally think that it will be Angry Titans, and it could be Team Gigante, which would be smart. I mean, they won, but who knows what they're going to do? They're going to pick up a team in EU, probably one of those two teams, and then the other one is, like you said, in China. It is one of the lesser known ones. Let's get some, contenders teams out there for Overwatch League and make China really, a contenders hub as well. Because you have South Korea, you have NA. I mean, yes, you have Shanghai Dragons in China, but one Overwatch League contenders team does not make a contenders league.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at Europe, British Hurricane, have they won? They won season 1, but they've lost ever since then. The one European contenders team, the OWL contenders team, hasn't won in a while. They need some more, good organizations in there. China definitely needs it because China is going to be the biggest market for Overwatch League to succeed. That's why, we have 3 teams there now. And, it's going to be interesting to see what this is because really China contenders could really skyrocket with this because then you're going to start plugging and then, it's going to do wonders because it's a whole new set of players that nobody's ever heard of that they get to go into. So I am a big fan of this. I am a very big fan of this. And any Overwatch League team that does not have an academy team is just stupid at this point. So, I mean, really it is. It's just a free pipeline for players, except when you get rid of all your players and sign homegrown players that aren't even in the top 500. But that's besides the point.
Well, you know what, Ed? I am glad you brought that up. The team that you didn't even mention by name, that being XL2 Academy, because I do have an update for you on XL2 Academy. There is only one person left standing, the sole survivor. Question mark? I don't know if it's gonna. I don't know if it's gonna last.
If there's anyone in the world who's like, I have zero job security, it's that one person.
It's Jer. Jer is the sole survivor on XL2 Academy right now. So
Jer's just not answering any phone calls.
Mm-hmm.
He's not looking at his email. No, not taking texts. He's like, if I can't see them fire me, I'm not fired. That's what he's going with right now.
And you know what's funny? Like, I'm on the Wikipedia page right now, and it lists him on active, but then it also has him on former. So who knows? Like, he might not even be with the team anymore. It could just be absolutely no one, and they'll just go with,
Wikipedia dropping
fully,
like...
It's just gonna be 6 local talent from the tri-state area. But the only reason why I bring this up is because we did find out earlier today that Mangachu, formerly of XL2 Academy, was picked up by Mayhem Academy.
I mean, I like the pickup.
It's a great sign-in. Don't get me wrong.
I like Mangachu. He's one of those fun people. Like, I mean, honestly, they even said it when they tweeted it out. When he comes running at you with that Torb hammer, you have to pick him up. Like, he's just a fun player to watch. He's good to have on your team. It was just, I'm surprised somebody didn't pick him up sooner. I don't think he's Overwatch League worthy, but he's definitely contenders team worthy. So this was a great signing by Mayhem Academy, who will still suck, but at least they get more name recognition out there.
It like, as soon as I saw it was Mayhem, my heart just sank. Like, immediately. I was like, oh. I mean, I've been following Mangachu for a very long time in the competitive scene, and then we saw how Mayhem Academy kind of played out this season. We'd higher hopes with their Overwatch League frontline, and it was rough. But I'm glad that he got picked up, and Spider and I were kind of debating whether or not he has a better opportunity at potentially getting promoted on Mayhem as opposed to XL2 Academy, and we'll see how that shakes up, just because while we don't know if Apply and Tavik are actually going to play for Mayhem or if they're just going to run their Korean roster.
One thing I will say with this is he played with XL2. XL2 was a very heavy... I mean, New York as whole is a very Korean-heavy organization.
Right.
It wasn't full, like their XL2 team wasn't fully Korean team, but it was a good portion of the team. So he has that play experience and playing with a lot of Korean players. So either he's caught onto some of the language or, can communicate with them probably better than most. So it actually isn't that bad of a situation for him to get called up because he has that experience. And Mayhem have the roster spots. And like you said, Tavik is probably not destined to stay on the team. Like, as a player. Coach, different. Player, not so much. So.
Well, he's more destined to, stay on the bus.
I feel they drive something nice.
Do you feel like they moved closer to the arena this season?
Possibly. I mean, maybe they got him a nice conversion van. Like, that would be nice. Have some TVs in there. Watch Twitch. Crack open a beer. If they... Nope. Probably can't drink. But, you know what I mean. Like, maybe they got him a nice conversion van. Then they're going to do Mayhem in the Rockies. And then Tavik is going to drive them through the Rocky Mountain in their conversion van.
I can just picture them doing VOD reviews on those little ass monitors.
And then they're being like, wait, can we take the last row and turn it into a bed so we can take a nap?
Mm-hmm.
See, you know what? Conversion vans have it all.
Anyways, I don't even know how to segue that. I got nothing.
I mean, conversion vans. You know who else is roster? New York Excelsior. And they're going to be introducing it through 1 hour documentary. Was that a good one? No?
I don't know. Sometimes the Discord cuts out so much that I don't hear you entirely. We'll roll with it, and I'll give you the nod for now. But anyways, earlier this evening, I believe this aired at 6 p.m. Central Time today. NYXL aired a 1 hour documentary which showcased the highs and the lows in new behind-the-scenes footage of the inaugural season of the Overwatch League. Now, this documentary had premiered on New York Excelsior's YouTube channel, and everyone knows the story, but in case you were living under a rock in Season 1, NYXL dominated the majority of the season and finished with the league best record of 34-6. Sure, they were Atlantic Division champions, they reached the finals in pretty much every stage, only went in 2 of the 4, but, that was more wins than anyone else. But that momentum in the regular season did not translate to success in the playoffs as they failed to win a best-of-5 series against Philadelphia Fusion. And that was in back-to-back games where they lost it. So they still finished top 4. But, after all of the sandbagging, all of the hype, all of the lack of actually wanting to play the meta, NYXL crumbled. And you could see it for yourself in the documentary, but I haven't had a chance to check it out. Obviously it was right before we went live on the air, and if I watched it before, obviously I wouldn't have time to take notes. It would have started, right as we were about to start. It was just cutting it too close. So I'm sure I'll go back, I'll watch it. We'll see how much of Sapiobi's hair is, the main feature. Probably gonna be a good one, and, Pine Time, but... it might just be a fluff piece. Who knows? But I'm definitely going to check it out here momentarily.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't have a time. I'm putting money on it being almost like an hour-long video where they're going to go over, what was hard, what was good about it, and then what they're excited for, what they're building up for, looking forward to Season 2, stuff like that. A lot of these teams are putting together these videos now, these hype videos. New York is definitely one of the best at pumping out, social media stuff, videos. They do the pop-up stores, stuff like that. They're the best at it. But, I mean, I'm not expecting a whole lot more than just an hour-long fluff with 10-minute interviews with each player with the same set of questions type of situation. They did did you see last week when they did the New York Excelsior players read mean tweets? Or
I did, yeah.
That was the most lame thing I've ever seen.
It was pretty cringe, I'm not gonna lie.
It was those aren't even mean tweets. Couple of them were okay, they're just trolls saying something, kind of off the cuff, but they weren't really mean tweets. No, that was very cringeworthy. So I'm not going into this thing with high hopes.
But you know what? There was one team in particular this past week that I'm not gonna say restored my faith in them because I'm already pretty high, at least in rankings, on this team. But did you see the LA Valiant roster reveal video that they did on their social media?
Yeah, the parody of The Office.
Yes.
That was pretty good.
That 11 of 10 quality. More people need to do something like that. That was absolutely perfect. And if you haven't seen it, and if you're a fan of The Office, you should definitely check it out. But even if you're not a fan of The Office, well, one, I don't know if there's such a thing, but you should go check it out. It's definitely worth the watch. But anyways, let's go ahead and let's jump into our main discussion for this week, which is finalizing our Overwatch League Season 2 host rankings, starting at number 5 and working our way up to that top spot ahead of Season 2. Alright, Ed, I have a feeling you and I are probably going to be pretty close, at the very high end. 1 and 2, pretty much across the network, is the same 2 teams for everyone. Might not necessarily be in the same order, but we're in agreement on quite a bit of that. So why don't you start us off? Who do you have ranked 5th overall going into the new season?
My number 5 team is an expansion team. And
okay.
Can you guess who it is?
See, I don't have the rankings up, but I feel like your biasness is going to come in now, and then my biasness is going to come in.
Yes. So my bias is going to come in first. So I have the Hans Spark.
What?
Coming in.
I am shocked.
Oh my god. I have them coming in because I am super high on this team of, Gushue, IDK, Crystal, Godsby, Bebe, Revenge, Rhea, the whole team's good. It's a good team. Everyone kind of saw when the Overwatch World Cup was going on what Gushue could do. Same with Crystal. Like, Crystal was lights out. Um, IDK is one I think that's going to surprise a lot of people. Just because I think they're just going to be shocked by the healing from IDK, and like the dominance that IDK can actually have. So this whole team is going to be one of those. If it's not them, it's Vancouver for the top expansion team, and I think that's kind of across the board.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, this team fits very well into the meta that is right now. Because you're looking at, because Gushue isn't even like the best in the top. Like, I mean, he's the top tank, but they have No Smite in there as well,
Right.
who also is a very good tank. And then you have Rhea, who can play Diva, or you have IDK, who will play the Lucio. Crystal could probably play Zarya or Baguette. Like, this team fits very well into GOAT's meta and very well into a dive meta as well. So it'll be interesting to see what they decide to run. I'm just very high on this team. I'm very, very high on this team. So hopefully they beat Vancouver and I win like 5 bets right there. I know you had them at number 6, so or no, you didn't have them at 6. Where did you have them at?
Wouldn't you like to know?
You had them at 7. Okay, I can handle that. You had them at...
Yeah, I was flipping 7 and 6 quite a bit.
Yeah, it's basically what's going to come down to Hoover versus the Spark is a flip of the coin. It really is going to come down to that, and it's when those two play each other, it's going to be an interesting show for us. Because we're going to talk about it, and we're going to go in depth on it, and we're going to probably butt heads on it. So, I'm looking forward to it. So who do you have at number 5? I don't know who you could possibly have.
I also have an expansion team.
Really?
Yeah.
What team could that possibly be that's...
See, you broke up there, so I had no idea what you said.
I was like, what team could possibly that's not presently in the United States?
Well, that really narrows it down there, Ed. That would be Vancouver Titans. So, it is no secret that I support Runaway. Or Runaway 2.0. The current Runaway roster, and not the original Runaway. But anyways, no. So everyone knows it's Runaway Contenders Season 2 Championship roster. And of course, they added on one additional piece, that being Repel, who was the support player for Element Mystic. And, EM went through a lot of changes to a lot of poaches out of that staff. So why do I have the Titans ranked so highly? Now, I know a lot of people are looking at Runaway, and they're thinking, well, they had their moment, but it was after all of the talent left. And to a degree, you can definitely make that argument. But this is also a team that has faced a lot of the current crop talents of the Overwatch League. And when we reflect back on the inaugural season, there was a common theme. These teams that were together for a long time, and I'm going to exclude Mayhem because that was an EU team, and, EU typically only does good against NA and then no one else. But a Korean team does good against everyone. Because we saw what happened with London, we saw what happened with New York Excelsior out of the gate. Both of them started very strong, and I'm expecting the same thing out of Vancouver. Maybe outside of the first week. I'll have to double check the schedule. I feel like, the quick transition flying over from Korea all the way to LA, at least initially, is going to push them back a little bit. But this is going to be a team that has that built-in synergy already. This is also a team that has been tested throughout not only triple tank, triple support, but also in dive. They have the flexibility to really, push to that next level. Now, the drawback of this Runaway roster for Vancouver Titans is something that I mentioned earlier. There is no one player on this roster that a lot of people would consider like a superstar. There's no like Carpe of the Vancouver Titans. You know, there's no Sabiolby. You don't have like that poster player basically. But at every level, they have a lot of talent that, you know, might not be top 3 at every position, but you could definitely make an argument for top 5 at every key position. So across the board from top to bottom, this team has talent, and they're a stacked team, and I'm really hoping that, like, my only concern is, how is the team going to be without Flowervin? You know, how are they going to do without their team mom? Because I'm just hoping, like, okay, hopefully they don't lose that, you know, family type value. Because, you know, most of the time when we see Runaway compete on stage, Flowervin is always there, you know, doing the hype talks in between, even if, you know, they're already crushing people. I'm sure you saw that in Contenders Korea this past season. But all in all, this is a team that has seen a lot of the current Overwatch League players. They pretty much know kind of what to expect. It's just a matter of making that transition, and I think they're going to be up to the challenge, because this is a team that has been tested, and no matter what iteration of the roster we have seen, they have always made a deep run in tournaments. And when it comes to the roster, you know, whether they're under Runaway or as the Titans, they're going to be able to captivate a pretty big audience, and that's only going to help elevate their game moving forward.
Yeah, the only knock, and I don't even think it's a knock on them, is the only question mark really with them is I don't know how they're going to do with the GOATS meta. Like, I will say this, if this was a dive meta, the Vancouver Titans would probably be top 3 on my list. Because Bumper is a pretty insane Winston, and Janice is a pretty darn good diva. Like, you know, they have a great dive team. I don't know how they're gonna do as a GOATS team. And that's and they may do phenomenal, because like you said, it's not like they have a star. They just have a lot of really quality players. So like, it's gonna be interesting to see how they do. And we won't know until, you know, that week 1 and see how they perform if they're even in LA. But you know, I'm excited to watch this team. I'm a fan of this team. It's just I'm a fan of the Spark more, and I have to spite you. Like, I can't cheer for the same team as you if it's not Chicago. It's just not allowed. So, but it is a very good team. And you said, yeah, it was Repel that they picked up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because they had to pick up Repel because they really don't have they didn't have a Zen player, really. Or was Twilight really their Zen player?
He was flex support.
He was flex support, but Repel is like known like as a Zenyatta player.
Right.
So like, you know, it'll be interesting to see how they do. They have a lot of Tracer players, so you know, you definitely have a Zarya player. So it's, you know, the team's gonna do good. It's a matter of how they can, you know, how they can deal with GOATs or Snoats, or if they just say, if they pull in New York Excelsior. Because New York Excelsior does not follow any rules. They just run whatever the hell they feel like. And this team is a team that could possibly do that as well. Just be like, you know what, we're just going to beat you with skill. And it may work for them, it may not work for them. But we'll find out. Hopefully it doesn't work. So who do you have at number 4?
Well, I have Philadelphia Fusion at number 4.
Boo.
Yeah, you can boo me all you want. So, who do they add to the Philadelphia Fusion while they side, you know, a certain back-to-back-to-back champion of Contenders North America in Elk? And I am really excited to see Elk, you know, get that promotion. Hopefully, you know, he's out of Contenders jail. You know, he can stop enabling everyone on Fusion University, so maybe another team will actually be able to stand a chance in, you know, Contenders NA, preferably Atlanta Academy. I mean, let's be real here. You know, loosen up the reins a little bit. And Elk is a big brain player. We know he's the shot caller of Fusion University. He's helped enable a lot of the players on that roster, and I expect him to have an easy transition, since when you look at Fusion University, that is already a mixed roster. So It's going to be a nice, easy fit. Now, the question is it going to see playtime over Neptuno? And it's kind of hard to say. Like, Neptuno plays a lot of Mercy. You know, that's what he's pretty much known for. You know, that battle Mercy, you know, I'm just going to go aggro, get in your face, pistol whip you, and there's nothing you can do about it type mentality. And more times than not, he does not get punished, which is unthinkable when you know, have that sort of playstyle. It's not like Arc the Undying for NYXL, who's a lot more passive, and there's a reason why he doesn't die, other than, you know, Jonak just killing everything before anyone can even do anything, but that's besides the point. But when we look at Philadelphia Fusion, when it comes to DPS, it's hard to argue against Carpe and EQO. I don't think there's a better DPS duo in the league still to this point. You have Carpe, who is at a consistently high level, but, you know, my only concern is with Philadelphia, and this is true across the board for Philadelphia, can they close out a series in moments that are outside of the clutch? There's too many 5-map series, and I felt like for Philadelphia last season, that is when Carpe started to show some signs of wear. Very late into the season, going into the playoffs. They need to be able to close out, you know, these playoff matches and not go 5-6 games or anything ridiculous like that. But 1-2 combo DPS line, Philadelphia Fusion will compete with anyone in the league, regardless of the team. But, you know, they're not going to have the Hotba Tracer shenanigans in the playoffs, so they're not going to have that in their back pocket. But I don't think that's a huge blow. And, you know, we don't have to worry about seeing Dayfly trying to play Mercy, which is going to be fantastic for them. So I'm expecting another consistent performance, another very good showing from the Fusion again in Season 2.
Here's the thing. The team's good. I still think they're the most overrated team in the league, but they are very good. And you brought up their strength. Their strength is their DPS lineup. Carpe and EQO, both phenomenal DPS. Probably two of the top 5-6 DPS, pure DPS players in the league. Like, and if this was a 2-2-2 meta, they would be out there. They'd be dominant. We are not in the 2-2-2 meta. We are in the GOATS meta. And it's pretty prevalent that this, you know, for stage 1 at least, we're going to be in some form of GOATS meta. Now, that is where DPS become, you know, not non-existent, but not essential. Like, you know, is Carpe going to be the best Zarya? Is EQO going to be one of the best Baguettes? Because those are the only two options they have to play. So those two better be playing those positions a lot. Otherwise, you know, you're just going to see, you know, a weak Baguette and a weak Zarya. Now, granted, they're probably both phenomenal at it. It's just they're not as good on those characters as they are on their DPS characters. So it will be interesting. Elk is going to be intriguing. I think Elk will probably get the play over Neptuno. Like you said, until Mercy is back in the meta. But until DPS are viable consistently viable in, you know, Overwatch League in the meta, Carpe and EQ are going to be performing under what they should be. It's just what's going to happen. And I don't like their tank line. I'm sorry. I don't think Poco is that good of a diva. Yes, people love Poco Bombs. But Poco Bombs that's not the sign of a good diva. You know, yes, you can get some flashy kills, but sometimes you don't need the flashy kills. So, I don't know. I didn't have them in my top 5. You had them all 4. I just don't see it being good for them this year. So, I don't know. I'm always going to be a hater of the Fusion.
All right, well, who do you have at number 4?
So, at number 4, I have your team. I have the Seoul Dynasty. I really love the Seoul Dynasty this year. And obviously, the big thing, you know, the writing on the wall, they got the best tank in Overwatch League. They got Fissure, who is the surprise star tank of the Overwatch League. So they have, you know, they massively upgraded their main tank line. They didn't really do much outside of that for their starting players, because you're still running. You have Zumba, Ryu Hong, Toby, Fleta, Munchkin, Fissure. You have Michelle, Marvel, all them in the back, but like, I think Ryu Hong is gonna step up again. Like, he came in as like super high, like as Sebaobi level of hype, and he just didn't live up to it. But it wasn't his meta.
Well, yeah, I feel like a lot of that too is Ryu Han hasn't necessarily been the fragger type of Zenyatta, so there were a lot of times where he didn't get as much attention because primarily of people like Jonak.
Yeah, exactly. And Anna is viable. Ryu Jae-hong is, and I don't think anyone will argue this, Ryu Jae-hong is probably the best Anna in the Overwatch League, but Anna was not viable in Season 1 in any stage. So you have Ryu Jae-hong being a little bit more comfortable. Fleta, I think too much was put on Fleta's plate to be like the savior, and he did play very well last year. It's just he didn't perform to Carpe levels of DPS. So you have Fleta and Munchkin out there. Fissure, obviously. Fissure's awesome. Toby out there. Toby's going to be out there. And it's this team, while they didn't do a lot to get significantly better, they got rid of some of the weak links on the team. I mean, you look at it, like they got rid of Kuki, Zephyr, Miro, Guido, Wicked, Gambler. Not get rid of them because Miro is tired, but Kuki went to the Valiant, Zephyr went to the Mayhem, Guido went to the Justice, Wicked went to MVP Space. Like, they got rid of some weak links that they were able to realize during Season 1 that they just don't fit with the team. And then they were able to bring in people that fit with the team. And they went and got the best tank in the Overwatch League. So I highly think that they are going to be the fourth team. I could even see them being in the top 2. It would not surprise me at all. This is a very skilled team. So I'm excited. I'm excited to see this team this year.
Yeah, for me, I just want them to make the playoffs.
You're setting your goals.
One time. That's all I'm asking.
Goals are way high on that.
See, here's the thing. When I went into the inaugural season, I'm feeling pretty good. And then the season happened, and I'm like, oh, you gotta be kidding me.
They're gonna make it. I mean, now granted, we don't know how the playoffs are gonna work.
Right.
So, I mean, maybe they'll probably have a better shot because they're gonna beat up on these bottom tier expansion teams. Because let's face it, most of the expansion teams are going to be at the bottom, and that's prevalent in all rankings that you see. So they're going to be able to beat up on team, get some good wins, and that they need to get some signature wins. I think they need to have at least one total win against London, and if they can pull off a win against London, I think smooth sailing for Seoul Dynasty. So they are the team I think that could crack and be, one of the top 2 teams in Overwatch League this year.
All right, well, moving on to number 3, I have the Los Angeles Gladiators. So, this team made a lot of moves during the offseason, so let me quickly go over them. They signed Decay and Roar from Condu Panthera. And these were really the playmakers of Condu Panthera, not the remaining members that was signed to Shanghai Dragons. They also picked up Reaper from Team Giganti, and then they also signed Pinker, our boy raging in the cafe, to a 2-way contract. But I don't know. I don't know if he's going to see that much play, but he's at least...
They hadn't signed Roar.
He's at least guaranteed some money, so there is that. It's a payday for him.
Yep.
But we know Silk Thread retired. Asher moved over to Toronto Defiant. iRemix went to the 86-man roster of Sky Foxes. We had Fisher obviously going to Seoul Dynasty, and we'll see how that plays out. But when you look at this, you have Decay, who came into the offseason as one of the highest touted free agents on the market. LA Gladiators won the bid-in war, and now it's just a matter of seeing where exactly it's going to fit in, because there is a little bit of crossover in regards to the hero pool of Surefour and Decay. Because he does play Tracer, he does play Hitscan, Surefour also does that. So I'm curious to see what exactly is going to happen there, but Decay, coming out of Contenders Korea, was just a superstar at that DPS position, and I'm expecting him to continue that momentum moving forward. And what better way to do that than by bringing in your main tank, who opened up all that space for you in Roar. So I'm excited. Fisher absolutely was an awesome main tank for the Gladiators, opened up a lot of possibilities for this team, and they really flourished under Fisher's aggression, and Roar is going to be a very suitable replacement moving forward. And outside of that, Gladiators across the board were always one of those teams that was in the discussion. And, they bring in Decay, and there's a lot of hype there. A lot of talk about how Decay and Surefour are probably just going to be, possibly, rivaling, people like Carpe, EQO, maybe Birdbrain Prophet, probably be the first two that would come to mind. So I feel like Gladiators across the board, they're very modest in regards to how everyone's kind of ranking them, but I feel like they're going to be able to back up that talk, and I'm excited to see not just the KDP members of the Gladiators, but to kind of see how the rest of that core roster does, because we look back at Contenders Korea Finals between Runaway and Kondu Panthera, and there's nothing that rivals that match, so I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. No, I completely agree with you. So, spoiler, me and Totem have the same top three. So this is going to be very common. We're just probably going to talk about them. But the Gladiators are the second most stacked roster, I think, in Overwatch League, behind New York, the NYXL. New York has the most stacked roster. Gladiators are number two, because if you think of it, the backup for each position has a starter on any other team in the league. I mean, like you said, so you have Roar and Bishu, who is one of the most lovable players in Mickey level of lovable. You have Roar and Bishu. Well, behind them you have Void and Panker. Void and Panker are both good, tanks. Good, flex tank, good main tank. You have Ripa supporting Shaz and Big Goose. Ripa's a very good healer. It was a good signing by them. Obviously, you talked about Decay backing up Surefour and Hydration. All three of them could start on any team. This is a team where the depth of the team could cause the most issues. And I think that's why I have them so high, is they could send in, you could have Decay really specialize on Sombra. So Sombra could come in and just go to town on specific maps, and that's they can't know, the other team won't know what hit them. They can't study the tape of their opponent and know what's going to happen, because they can rotate in whoever at any time, and they're going to fill a different role. Whether you have Roar who comes in just for the Reinhardt maps, or Panker who comes in for the Winston maps. It's just, they're very stacked. I don't think the Decay Surefour thing is going to be an issue, because Surefour's hero pool is one of the most massive hero pools. He's one of those players that you're always going to find room for. He's just a special player. He's obviously a fan favorite, but he's insanely good too. So he's always going to have a spot on the team. He's always going to be out there. And Decay is going to come in when personally, if Decay's coming in, I think they're going to replace Hydration. I know they don't have similar hero pools, but I think they want to keep Surefour in there, and Surefour can switch to literally any hero probably in the game and play at a high enough level that it works. So if they want to get Decay in there for certain maps based on the heroes he's working on, they will. Hydration will stay in there for maps where, if you need a Pharah or something like
Yeah,
that.
I think it'll be Pharah Doomfist for Hydration more than likely.
Yeah, and then if you want Decay to be on the Sombra or Genji or even Zarya if you want to go, because Surefour can play Baguette and Decay can play Zarya. Like, there's just so much flexibility with this team that you cannot tell what they're going to do next. So I really like the Glad this season, and I think they're going to do really well. So that brings us up to number 2. And at number 2, we have the New York Excelsior. So, I mean, everyone knows New York Excelsior was the most dominant team last year. Like, they just were. They just didn't win at all. They lost to the Fusion. It's which is a joke. But this is the most stacked team in Overwatch. They have too many good players. Like, they're gonna have pissed off players.
Mm-hmm.
Plain and simple. Like, this is the type of team where next year New York crumbles because so many people want off the team for not playing. Like, they brought up Flower and Nene, like the 2 best DPS players they had in their minors, to come up, and they're not going to play because they're the 4th and 5th best DPS players on their own team. Like, how do you replace Sebeobi, Pine, Libero? Like, it's just not possible. I mean, you have Mono and Meko holding down the tank line. You have Jonak, Ark, and Animo, all 3 phenomenal support. Like, you have a glutton of riches, but at a certain point, someone's going to get upset and want to actually play. And probably won't be this year. Maybe halfway through the season, they start to trade some of the DPS away for, money or whatever. Maybe they can pay some street rats to play XL2. I don't know. Like, they're just going to hold tryouts for the XL2. Like, they don't have to pay them. But with this team, they need to get... This is an expensive team. Like, I don't care what you say. This team is costing them a lot of money. And I think they had to make assurances to Flower and Nene that they would be starting or would get significant playtime for them to sign with New York. Because if they didn't, they would have signed elsewhere where they would actually play. So I'm honestly counting on Pine, Sebeobi being not on the team at some point during the season. It just makes the most sense. So I don't know what they're going to do, but this team is stacked.
Yeah, I mean, like, when the Overwatch League was announced, this is after Flower had, like, the breakout performance in the World Cup, against the US, the Widowmaker Clinic, basically. And, everyone's like, oh, well, you won't be able to see him in the inaugural season, he'll be in for Season 2. So there was already, like, this buzz behind Flower being in the Overwatch League, even though he wasn't a sure done deal as of yet, just due to being underage at that time. And then that's why they just brought him onto XL2 when he basically made Flower, or Nanohana at the time, because, God forbid he changes his ID 80 more times. But Flower was essentially who they built that roster around. And then Contenders was just not the strongest suit for Flower. So there is a little concern on my part about how he's going to fare. I feel like a lot of people are setting their expectations for Flower specifically very high, and I'm hoping that that's not going to be too much pressure added onto him going into his big debut, because a lot of people will be making a big deal about it, and there's going to be a lot of publicity, a lot of hype. And, this is New York. Everyone expected them to just run shot through the end of season playoffs, and that didn't happen.
Yeah, I mean, I guess my question to you would be, I think we both agree that not all these players are going to team at the end of the year. I think that's a pretty safe bet. Who do you think is going to start for them? Out of their 5 DPS players, let's say 2 of them start. Who's going to start for them? Like, that's the big question. I think there's one obvious choice in Libero.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's probably, him and Surefour are the 2 most players in the league, can play really anything. So you have those 2. You have Libero. Who's going to be the other one?
It's so hard to... Okay, so Nene was the firepower in Exo2 Academy. He outshined Flower throughout that entire tenure. But if we look at the meta, like, if Nene's going to be playing on the DPS role, it's going to be on Sombra. I can't imagine it being on anything else at this point. But I'm trying to think, how much non-crossover there is when it comes to the actual DPS, because so many of them play Tracer and Widow. At least in Pine's case, he is, McCree. But, if you've been spending all this time with Flower, waiting, in the shadows, essentially, I can't imagine Flower not being someone that they're going to work in as much as possible. So if it's me, I would probably say Nene is going to move back to off-tank. He'll be a sub. He'll come in. But it's just a matter of, well, are you going to classify all these DPS as hero specialists, map specialists? What's going to go on with that? And I honestly don't know, Ed. Pine, Saebyeolbe, Libero, Flower, and Nene all basically play Widowmaker at a very high level.
Oh, yeah.
And we have seen quite a bit of Widowmaker and Ashe compositions, and if that's going to be the case, let's say it's not a GOATS meta. If it's a double sniper meta, NYXL is going to be the best team in the league, bar none.
Oh, yes.
Because they can basically sub any other DPS in and out, and they'll probably still be the best 1-2 combo in the league at those specific roles. Mm-hmm. So if I'm New York Excelsior, I'll say, okay, if it's a Tracer meta, Saebyeolbe is going to be in. If not, you'll probably be moving him over to Brigitte, which, honestly, SBB's Brigitte was not that impressive. He was middle of the pack, but on a team like NYXL, they don't necessarily need to have a standout Brigitte player. As long as they're able to sustain, they'll be fine, because they're going to have the firepower in other positions to really push through. So I feel like Pine will be continued to be used as control specialist. He'll come in with the McCree. If there's a need for protecting McCree compositions, Pine is going to be the one that they build around to support. Libero is going to be... I feel like Libero and Pine are going to be the people that they sub for one another, but Libero and Flower would probably be the starting DPS, assuming Tracer isn't meta. Is what I would lean towards.
All right. I mean, I completely agree with you. Everything you literally... I agree with. Libero and Flower are my 2 picks. Saebyeolbe, if there's a Tracer meta. And then Pine is a more situational DPS player. I think a big question is also going to be, is Arc going to be benched? Because, I mean, if you think of it, Arc was a Mercy player.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they have Animo, who's a great Lucio.
Well,
and then you're not sitting Jonak, no matter what. You're not sitting Jonak. So you have Jonak and then Animo on Lucio. Is Arc still going to be in there?
The key thing here is, while those 2 are very close in regards to actual stats, Arc just doesn't die. Now, if we're talking I feel like a lot of this is going to be based on the meta. So if we see a lot of Ashe, you're going to need a Mercy in the game to enable that one-tap potential, and that's just going to increase Arc stock that much further to give him the nod over Animo.
Okay. Yeah, I know Arc stays alive crazy on Mercy. But does Arc stay alive on other supports too, as well? And yes, I agree. I think Arc is not going to be their go-to main support. I think he's going to be a situational player, kind of like Pine is going to be a situational DPS on certain maps. When, like you said, when they run Ashe or something like that, they're going to bring in Arc to play Mercy. And otherwise, if they want to run more of a GOATS comp, they're going to bring Animo in to play the Lucio. But again, it's one of those, you're like, I have too many plethora of wealth. Like, oh, do I have to play Animo or Arc? Ho-hum, they're both all-stars. Like, Arc is the best healer on 15 of the other, Overwatch League teams. It's just... he just happens to be on this team, and it's going to be crazy. I think the only non-question mark New York has is their main tank and their off tank, because they don't have backups.
Well, unless you include Nene Zarya.
Unless you include Nene, but like as of right now, like Mono is the main tank, no backup. Meko is, the flex tank. Now you have other options, but Meko is basically going to be your diva player.
So, with that being said, though, Ed, who is going to be the player now that Janus isn't on the roster to throw in the maps that they don't necessarily need to win?
Pine.
Here's a good point. Okay, so when we talk about stock value, Pine, you can definitely argue, is not someone that you could have start in every single game. Because of the way that he plays. He's very high risk, high reward. We see how much he flanks. And I wish they tracked, like, distance traveled, like, in Overwatch League games, so we can see just how much time Pine is actually spent running around on that flank position to get behind the teams.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think it was watch the last... he's like, slowly strategic behind the last point when they're on offense to try and snipe people from behind. Like, nobody does that. He's the wild card on the team. He's the one that comes in and nobody knows what the hell he's going to do. But you can't have that kind of person be in every match, because you can't... a wild card in every match is no longer a wild card. They're going to be repetitive. So, Pine is going to be the closer, really. Like, for baseball, he's going to be the closer. He's going to come in when, the team needs him to really come in and just kind of shut some stuff down with some nasty stuff. Like, that's what they're going to need. But if they're also going to bring him in, they also have to realize he could 100% throw the entire game, because he goes by the beat of his own drum. Like, I guarantee you his coaches have heart attacks 95% of the time that he's on Widowmaker. Like, plain and simple, they just do. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do, but this is the most stacked team in the league.
Mm-hmm.
So I will let you introduce. Who do we have at number 1?
Well, we are going to take the mentality of the champions always retain the top spot until proven otherwise. And that is the London Spitfire. Okay, so
you have to.
When we look at this team, they only dropped one player. Well, let me rephrase that. Okay, in Season 1, they cut the fat. They got rid of 4 players, and then postseason, they dropped Closer, who went over to Dallas Fuel. They did add 2 players to this roster. They added Guard, who is one of the Element Mystic DPS players. He plays Sombra and Tracer. And they also picked up Krillin off of Open Division, who played for Crusher. Now, Open Division isn't really streamed, so I don't have that much intel on Krillin, but could it potentially be a JJoNak in the wait-in? Absolutely. I mean, who better to learn from than... I'm not going to say the number 2 Zenyatta, because that just wouldn't be right to him, but Dojin and JJoNak are neck and neck. Like, they are so close. And, yeah, a lot of people, when they were doing stats, they would just compare JJoNak to basically the rest of the Zenyatta players, which is totally unfair to Bdojin, because he was always in the discussion throughout the season as well. And, that's just going to be a great experience for an up-and-coming player like Krillin. It's just a matter of, are we actually going to get to see him play? Just because this team, when we look back at Season 1, sure, at the start they looked good, but they were still trying to figure out, okay, well, how are we going to split up these rosters, because they signed 2 complete teams initially going into the inaugural season, and it took some time to finally figure out, okay, we just need to condense our roster, and then it was just smooth sailing at that point. There were some rocky patches, but they were able to stabilize, and they adapted to the meta. Unlike some other teams that just chose to ignore it and just, kind of shrug their shoulders like, yeah, nothing's wrong, we'll just do our own thing. But, they didn't really lose a key player on this roster. And, we look back and Prophet, he was MVP for a reason. So I'm expecting London to continue the trends now that they have, the more condensed roster, the pieces to work with, and are able to pinpoint how they want to go about doing things. Now, my only concern with London is more so on Birdring, because there were times where Birdring kind of had a similar effect to, like, Fleta. There were times where Fleta looked like one of the best DPS in the Overwatch League, and then there were other times where he just wasn't even in the discussion, and then that too happened to Birdring. So, if Birdring can maybe match a similar level to Carpe in regards to consistency, that's definitely going to help sustain London Spitfire throughout the year. But across the board, London is a stacked team, and they're not going to have to be dealing with this internal struggle of, okay, who are we going to play in this situation? Are we going to swap around both DPS? Are we going to sub one DPS out? Who's going to be, our starting, main DPS players? They don't have to worry about that. They know who their pieces are going to be ahead of time. And, if they need a Sombra specialist, if Sombra is going to be that impactful with, all these armor changes, they have a pretty damn good one in guards. So they shored up one of the holes in their game. They helped further, meta-proof this team. And I feel like London, while they might not have, like, the same, like, star name caliber players as a team like New Excelsior, which really no one can compete with them on that regard, London is still going to be a step ahead of them in regards to probably mechanical skill as a team. And this is a team, when we talk about playstyles, this is a team that can play one of two ways. They can be as aggressive as New York, who probably are the most aggressive team in the league, but they also kind of have that very Seoul-esque defense where they are a little bit more slow approaching, but they're able to adapt on the fly, and they'll give you different looks after each attempt. So there's just, to me, no deeper pool than London Spitfire.
Yeah, I mean, like you said it best when you first brought them up. The reason we both have them at number 1, and I think everyone. Let me just double check that before I quote that.
Well, there's a couple of us that have London at number 2.
Oh, okay. But the champs, like, they won it all. They deserve to be number 1. Now, granted, the team is I will say they probably have the best overall tank line in Overwatch League with Gesture and Fury. Fury, if you're fantasy-wise, Fury is not a bad number 1 flex tank pick. Just throwing that out there. Like, it's super strong for them. But like you said, I think a lot of this really comes down to the second DPS and the second support. Like you have Badosin who's locking down the Zenyatta, locking down the flex support role. You have Prophet. Again, Prophet's being Prophet. Like, yeah, you're not going to find much better than him out there. It's Birdring, and then are they going to use Nuss? What are they going to do with it? They have two question marks who could be super strengths for the team. Like you said, Birdring at times was dominant, but I consider Birdring the same level as Effect. Like, Effect is one of the best DPS players in the league, but only half the time. Like, half the time they're amazing, half the time just underwhelming. And I think that was the story of Birdring in season 1. Nuss is not a bad support. Krillin, honestly, we just don't know anything about. Like, open division in Korea. I'm sorry, nobody knows really.
Well, it's important to note that if the champions are picking you up, they had to have seen something really exceptional.
See, here's the thing. That might be true, but I can't remember. Who did they get rid of to the LA Gladiators? I can't remember what tank. Oh, yeah, that was Fissure. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, that was Fissure.
But
so you know what?
That might have been more personality than anything.
No, I mean, the thing is that they released good players.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they had Rascal on their team, who's, on the Shock now. You have Hureg, who was DPS now for Runaways. Huyal and Tizzy played for XL2 before they got cut because they're not from New York. And
well, even the people from New York got cut.
Yeah, and then you have Closure, who's playing for the Dallas Dumpster Fires. Like, they had good players on their team, and they just got rid of them. Like, I don't know if you can judge the overall scouting department of the Spitfire as that good because they're just getting rid of good players. To bring in people like Guard and Krillin, like, they may be phenomenal, but they're unproven, and you just don't know. Now, granted, Hagopan and Closure probably weren't the best choices to be the backup healer. So Krillin might be better than both of them, but I just think the second support and the second DPS are the question marks of this team. Are they a phenomenal team? Yes. They're going to be in the top 4 throughout the whole season, barring something crazy. But the other thing is we just, and I think this goes for every single team throughout all Overwatch League, is how are they going to switch over to the GOATS meta? Like, we just don't know who's going to be good in the GOATS meta. I mean, meta changes everything about every season. Like, prime example, Dallas Fuel Stage 4. The meta changed that completely for them.
Yeah, Houston outlaws anything outside of Junkrat.
Yeah, like, I mean, Dallas was bottom 2 teams in the league last year. Mm-hmm. Bottom 3. And then Stage 4 happened, and the meta switched, and it's like, okay, we're in the playoffs. What just happened? Like, yes, they got a new coach, but a lot of it was the meta that changed. The reason New York Excelsior probably didn't beat the Fusion in the playoffs last year was because of the meta. And New York just wasn't set up for the meta that was out there. They were very stubborn. New York was just very stubborn about the meta. So I don't know how they're going to convert over to the GOATS meta, but they deserve to be the number 1 team because they did win it all. And they proved to us that they're the best team. So that is why I made them number 1, is because I'm a big believer of that. Also, Fury is a god at D.Va.
So. Absolutely. All right, well, with that being said, that basically wraps up our top 5 rankings for the Overwatch League. Now, we are going to do our Overwatch League Network rankings on next Monday's episode, since everyone wasn't there this past Monday. And then whenever we get that, and I'm going to air quote, pre-season, we'll release our average out rankings between every podcast host on a network. That will include Blazing Bob and Julian Goulian. And Ren, we can't forget Ren. He's still here. So stay tuned for that in the next week or two at the most. But with that being said, guys, we're going to go ahead and we're going to close out the show for tonight. So if you guys want to help us out, one of the best ways to do that is to go leave us a positive review over on iTunes. We're always looking for feedback to offer us insight on how we can make for a better listening experience for you guys. We don't have any new reviews this week, at least not any new written reviews on iTunes. I know we did get a new 5-star review that wasn't a written out one, but I thank that person anyway. We have Overwatch Recall, which of course is our listing of Overwatch content, whether it is general Overwatch, Overwatch League, Path to Pro, Fantasy Overwatch League, all that good stuff. That is over on our website at owlnshow.com/OWRecall. And episodic listings are released every Sunday night. So to keep up to date with all the latest podcast scene news, follow Overwatch Recall on Twitter at OWRecall. Now, Ed, we have a number of different ways where our listeners and viewers can get a hold of us, so why don't you let them know how they can do that?
All right, this is starting to get to be a mouthful, but I think I got it down by now. So you can reach us on email at hndoverwatch@gmail.com. We do have a website, and that is owlnshow.com. Come over there. We have everything up there. We do have a YouTube channel. Over to youtube.com/c/Overwatch League Network, where we will have all our videos, stuff like that. We are on Discord. You can come to our Discord at discord.me/OWLNshow. We are presently streaming live on Twitch at twitch.tv/OWLNshow. We are a Twitch affiliate, so come help support the show by subscribing to our channel by using that free Amazon Prime. It's at the top there on the screen. So come subscribe to that. We do stream regularly, so we have the Overwatch League Network at Mondays at 7 p.m. Pacific. Tuesdays, we have our new fantasy show, OWL by the Numbers. That's Tuesdays, 6 p.m. Pacific. We have this show, Heroes Never Die, which is our variety Overwatch show, Wednesdays at 5 p.m. Pacific. We do have host streams normally on Thursdays and Fridays at 7:30 p.m. Pacific. We have a special show next Friday when we will be live streaming our fantasy draft with the other podcasts, where shenanigans and trash talk will ensue, so come make sure to join us for there.
That will be at 9 p.m. Central, was it?
Oh, God, no, 8 p.m. Central, I thought. No,
we'll
no.
double check.
Yeah, no, it is 9 p.m. Central.
Yeah, so 7 Pacific.
7 Pacific.
So a little bit earlier than the normal.
10 Eastern, but we don't really care about the people on the East Coast.
Especially when they're that close to Canada.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah. That's true. So we are also on Patreon now. Patreon Network. So we recently launched Network Patreon page for those that want to support our Overwatch Network even further. Tier starting at just $1 a month. So come over, sign up for the Patreon if you really want to. We really appreciate the help to send out some phenomenal content to you.
Yeah, and it's important to note that tomorrow is the last day of the month. So, you're still able to pledge and get the rewards for the current month. So yeah, if you're going to do it, now is definitely the time to do it, because if not, you're gonna have to be waiting a little bit longer on getting some of the goodies that we have in our tiers.
So you can reach me personally on Twitter, and that's at Edanar Overwatch, EDANAR Overwatch. Total, can they reach you?
Well, I'm over on Twitter at TotallyDrunkCTR, and if I'm live on Twitch, it will of course be on our podcast network channel at twitch.tv/OWLNshow. But with that being said, guys, we're going to go ahead and close out the show for tonight. So thank you so much for hanging out with us for another episode of Heroes Never Die. Again, this has been episode number 145. I am your host, Only Drunk, joined, as per usual, by my co-host here in Ika Point, Antarctica, Edanar, and we will see you guys back, hopefully on Monday, with Slambo back from the Audio Abyss, maybe, no promises, I don't want to give everyone hopes up, but, modest expectations, but we are planning on capping off our Overwatch League rankings. Until the next time, guys, have a good night.
Have a good one.
Thank you for listening to Heroes Never Die. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at HNDOverwatch and join us on Discord at discord.me/OWLN show.